Hello everybody, my name is John Wright. I'm the Director of Public Relations for Hardin County Schools, and welcome to this edition of HCS Matters. We're hanging out here at Lincoln Trail Elementary School today, so if you hear some noise in the background, it's just kiddos having fun in the library and learning, and so we're glad to be hanging out with the folks at Lincoln Trail today. We're talking health today here on HCS Matters, and doing so we have Ms. Ibby Hopper from Cumberland Family Medical and Ms. Janae Sutton, who is our Director of Health Services and Frisk Services for Hardin County Schools. And so we've always provided health services, Janae, but we had to make it a little bit of an adjustment. But talk about our long history, if you will, of providing those quality health services for our students.
Sure. With Hardin County Schools, it is the whole child that we're working with, because we know that the physical, mental well-being is all going to go into their cognitive development. And since Hardin County Schools, at least for the past 20-30 years, we have provided health services, but in a limited fashion. Students with chronic illnesses, very special needs, chronic illnesses such as diabetic conditions, asthmatic conditions, and then there were some other students with special needs, and that tended to be all that we serviced. We were partnered with our local health department in order to have 9 school nurses throughout our school system. Each of our high schools had a nurse, as well as the middle and elementaries took the other 6 positions, and they shared those. And as I stated, they only took care of special health care needs. But we have seen that evolve. There are students, families that are working families, lots going on in their lives, and students needing immunizations, needing their well child visits, a lot of different things going on. And we saw a need that had to be met for our children. And so that's when we reached out to Cumberland Family Medical. We heard of the awesome things that they've been doing throughout the state of Kentucky to reach children who are needing those healthcare needs, and to also provide a service that's not just needed badly by some students, but there's parents who are working and they can't get their child to the doctor at that point in time. The intent of them is not to take any type of a healthcare home, but rather to establish that in the community. And they're bridging that gap for so many of our children and so many of our families. Talk
about the importance of keeping our kids healthy. I mean, it seems like that we are, we're not just educators. And 50 years ago, that's what we were. We were educators, point blank, period. But now we're more than that, Janae. We're people that look out after the whole child. Just talk about how our industry, if you will, has evolved into making sure our kids are healthy.
Education is definitely a great deal more than just textbooks, John, exactly. Students, from the moment that they wake up, they need to be fed. They need to have that atmosphere that they can be in where they know they can grow. And like we said, it's not just academic growth. It's that emotional, that social, and their health. As with anything, if your body's not healthy, if your mind's not healthy, if you're sitting in a chair, if you have a dental issue, if you are running a fever, things like that, you can't learn if you don't eliminate those barriers. And so Hardin County Schools saw that need, and that's why we've been working with health services, but we made a decision to expand it much more widely. It was approximately about 3 to 4 years ago. We placed a school nurse in each one of our buildings. So we expanded to 22 school nurses, and we've had that established. This will be our 4th year now.
Our Board of Education, I'll just be honest, there was a time when we had some budget cuts, and I think we all were sweating because of our nurses, or for our nurses, just because that's where we were with our numbers, our dollars. But our board really saw they saw how our students were progressing, and our students that these nurses were making a difference, and said, hey, we got to have them.
Exactly. It's so crucial to have individuals serving on our Board of Education that see those needs. And that's exactly what our board members, they see the whole child, they see what's going on. And statistically in data, it was widely proven. Attendance has improved greatly. Children are in school, staying in school, because a lot of times, sometimes it's a simple over-the-counter medication that they need for a headache, and some things like that in order to take care of their needs. But the Board of Education looked at the budget and knew that it was something that had to be provided to our kids in order to support them in their education.
And also, special needs play a part in that. I mean, it seems like we have so many children who need those special services, as you mentioned, but it's more than that, isn't it, Jenna? I mean, kids can fall down at school, or kids can get get sick at school, or kids can, there's so many things that can happen, not just because they're at school, but because they're up and about.
We have seen everything from scraped, bruised knees on the playground to conditions, heart conditions. Students are having repetitive, they come to the nurse, and of course you always have to balance that. Is this child coming because they're wanting to come out of class? What's really going on here? And 3 or 4 key crucial parents, if you talk to them, a life-threatening condition was identified because of the school nurse, a child that had repetitive headaches, repetitive fatigue. We even had one student, the repetitive fatigue became evident. School nurse talked because they have parents sign permissions for school nurses to speak to the child's home pediatrician, medical home. And that child was diagnosed with leukemia at an early stage and so forth. So it's nothing short of a miracle what happens in school nurse clinics, nothing short of a miracle.
Yeah, my personal, or not personal, it was during my work day, but at one of our schools we had a field trip where students got stung, several students got stung by hornets. First thing we did was we stopped at that school and picked up that school nurse and took her to the site, and she made a big difference there. So
the triage that they provide in emergency situations, and it's our students, it's our staff, it's a wide variety that are being taken care of in order to make that whole school environment much stronger.
So some things happened with our partnership with the health department, and so we had to kind of stop back and evaluate. And you won't do this, so I'll do it. You worked very feverishly on finding a way to make sure that our students did not lose care. And in our partnership with Cumberland Health, our care has gone up a notch or 2 or 12. So just talk about, Janae, Cumberland Health, and then we'll get Ibby going here, but just talk about the wonderful partnership that we have with Cumberland Health.
With school systems, you always need to have a partner in order to have a medical director, a physician that can provide over-the-counter medications. From August of 2018 until December of 2018, many parents, many students saw how beneficial it is to be able to have those, because we didn't have those. We did not have a medical directorship. Our RNs stayed strong, working at all the schools, taking care of daily medication needs, special needs, seeing kids. But when that, like I said, there was that small headache or something going on, kids were still having to go home. But when we partnered with Cumberland, one, brought on that medical director, and medical directors allow you to provide over-the-counter medications with their standing orders, whether it's over-the-counter medications as well as emergency medications. But more importantly, what you see with Cumberland are folks that care about the health of children for the sake of the child. And it's not just limited to your typical bumps and bruises and so forth. They have dental care services. They have behavioral health services, immunizations, well child checkups. The list could go on and on and on of the things, flu vaccines and so forth. Now, as we rolled out, we began our partnership with them as school returned on January the 8th, and the doors opened immediately, and we placed, in partnership with Cumberland, a nurse practitioner. We have 3, and each nurse practitioner has a provider nurse that goes along with them so that the school nurse can continue along with his or her day seeing students and so forth. But we have 3 located throughout the county. Cumberland analyzed very meticulously so that there would be a balance and so forth. So if you have a student that comes into the school nurse clinic and the school nurse does an assessment and sees that there might be symptoms that warrant further evaluation, parent is called. Parents are always called. I know at the beginning of the year some signed off permission, but parents are still always called prior to say, listen, little Jane, she is sick today. She is running 102-degree fever. Here's some other symptoms. We have a nurse practitioner. Would you like to see if we can get her on the schedule to be seen today? And that is, like I said, parents are always involved. Parents are always made aware. And if you have a health home, those nurse notes and those nurse practitioner notes can be sent back to your child's regular pediatrician so they can know they've had strep at school, 2 weeks prior to being seen in the actual pediatrician's office as well.
Yeah, but you guys have a strong reputation of school health. You guys are obviously came very well, highly recommended, and you have a good reputation. So just talk about the Cumberland way of doing things and how you guys have earned that reputation.
Yeah, sure. So we are Cumberland Family Medical. We're a federally qualified health center. We started back in 2007 with our first standalone medical clinic. And it started with our medical director and our CEO, Dr. Eric Loy, and he just saw a need that we were not bridging there in the rural areas. So we actually started then. We saw the need for school health back in 2014. And a similar situation to what you all have had here, the district was losing funding for their school nurses, and they reached out to our medical director and just said, is there anything you all can do to help us? Do you have any options for school health? And at that point we didn't. We didn't have any options for school health. And that's where we came up with this model of what school health could look like in a different environment. We function much like the school nurses have functioned before. Janae said they are able to do everything they've done before with their standing orders. But then we add in the level of the nurse practitioner. She did a great job explaining how that works. We have a nurse practitioner on site. We're able to see students and staff for acute care visits, well child exams, sports physicals, immunizations, and then we also have a dental program that we bring in, and we're working on putting in a behavioral health program here as well. And so that's kind of some things that are coming up. We always want to make sure that the parents understand what's going on. We do get parent permission every time before a student is seen. If the parent wants to come in for the visit, that's great. If they don't want to be there for the visit, our nurse practitioners always call and let them know what's going on, and we give them a rundown of the visit and kind of what has happened during the visit. One of our big focuses through Healthy Kids Clinic is wellness, and I'm so glad that Janae mentioned this, because our motto is whole child wellness, and so we truly believe that if a child is not whole physically, mentally, and emotionally, they're not going to be a good student. And so what can we do as an organization to bridge that gap of whole child wellness for the kids in Hardin County and in our other surrounding counties that we work with?
So how do you guys go about that? I mean, do you have like a wellness program, or it sounds like preventative?
We do.
Okay.
We focus on lots of preventative.
Okay.
We do lots of acute care visits, and we want to be there for the strep throat and the ear infections and all those different things. But we really like to focus on wellness, and the way we do that is through our well child exams. Parents were able to fill out a permission form at the beginning of the school year if they wanted us to complete their child's well child exam here at school. And we will still contact them before, let them know what's going on and that the well child exam is coming up. But during the well child exam, we're looking at anticipatory guidance, we're looking at behavior markers, we're looking at their growth charts, we're looking at lots of different things that you don't get during an acute care visit. And some of the things that we found through just routine well child exams will blow your mind. I like to tell this story because it's on myself. My own daughter, she had her routine well child exam at school. I didn't realize her eyes were bad. She never complained. She never said anything about it. Come to find out, her eyes were really bad. We went on to see the eye doctor, and she ended up having spinal fluid build up behind her eyes because of so many years of straining with her vision. And so this was noticed from a routine well child exam. My children are adopted, and so we had done, we've had her since she was 7, and so we had done everything that I thought you should do. But through her school-based routine well child exam, they noticed her eyes, and so we were able to reverse the effects on her eyes, and now she doesn't even have to wear glasses. And so just so, there's so many things like that, so many chronic care conditions that we're able to find through just the routine well child exams. Now,
Ibby, I want to set up a little scenario here. I love my pediatrician.
Yes.
And I do. I mean, that's not play. We love our pediatrician's office, and as a parent, but the services you provide is not intended to take the place of that relationship between a pediatrician's office. I just want to make that clear and get you to emphasize that.
I'm glad that you said that.
Yeah.
So that sometimes is the fear of parents or the fear of maybe the community that we want to take the place of that patient medical home, and that's not our intent at all.
Right.
I did a study 2 years ago, and about 75% of the kids that we see in our school-based clinics don't have a regular pediatrician or don't have a
Say that number again?
75%.
75%. 3 of every 4. Yeah.
So a lot of the children we're going to see are going to be kids who don't have that patient-centered medical home. Our goal is that all patients have a patient-centered medical home. We have our own standalone clinics, and we like for our patients to have a patient-centered medical home because there's nothing more important than having that continuity of care. But what we find in schools and in the community in general is that sometimes there's barriers to that. We see students lots of times that the parents don't have transportation to take them to the doctor. They don't have insurance. They don't have the means to get them there. And so that's where we like to step in. Now, there's lots of times where it's a convenience for parents. So maybe it's a working parent and they do have a patient-centered medical home, but they are out of town that day and they want their student to be seen by our nurse practitioner. That's great. We'll be glad to see them. And Janae mentioned we'll be glad to send a visit note to their pediatrician if that's what they choose for us to do. But we never want to take the place of that patient-centered medical home. We just want to fill in that bridge and that gap of the patients who are not getting what they need and the services they need.
You talk about the 3, and so how are they divided? I know how they were divided, but just tell our folks that are watching how you determine where to strategically place those folks, and I would imagine the day of a nurse practitioner is stuffed to the gills. So talk about their day and kind of how they operate.
Sure. So we like to say that their schedule's organized mass chaos. That's what we call it.
I would imagine
that's what we call their day. I don't think Hardin County Schools could have 3 better nurse practitioners than what we have on staff here. They love the kids and their heart is truly here with the kids in this district. It's been amazing to see their transformation and what they've already been able to do here. So we have split them up and we're calling it pods into 3 different pods. So we have a north pod, a central pod, and a south pod. And so we worked very closely with Janae and we mapped out schools and mapped out enrollment to try to figure out how we could get the max amount of patient encounter time that we could. And so the nurse practitioners do travel. So they're split in their pod, but they do travel between the locations. So kind of the way their day will start is at a particular school each day. And they start with well child exams that morning. So normally they'll have 3 to 5 well child exams on their schedule, and they'll start at that school. And then past that point, they travel to their other schools to see sick visits. So wherever the need is, so they may have to even backtrack sometimes, or just wherever the need is where they're going. So they're on the road and they're traveling between schools, but we are available at every school every day for services for the staff and students.
So say at sometime during the day the nurse practitioner will cross the threshold at some point in the day at every school.
At some point, usually every day they're at every school. If there's not a need for them to be there that day, if there's no sick kids or nothing going on, they may not be there. But I don't think we've seen that happen yet. So I think they're pretty much at every school every day and available there for students and staff.
You guys are based out of Columbia, Russell Springs, Kentucky. So Hardin County is very large, not just from a geographical standpoint, but our district has 23 schools, which so probably the biggest school district that you take care of. So how has the transition been for you guys to obviously every child in every district and every school and every piece of the state is important, but how have you made the transition? You guys I think you've handled it wonderfully to kind of embrace this great big old school district.
Yes. So I really think that the great embrace has came from the district down, starting with the school board, to the superintendent, to Janae, to the principals, all the way down. Everyone has, even though I'm not from Hardin County and I don't know many people here, every time I go into a school, I am greeted just like they know me and just like I'm a part of the school, and I love that. And I'm glad you mentioned that. Most of our school districts are rural communities. So we work in 13 different school districts.
Which we are, ultimately.
You are.
Right.
Most of our districts have, anywhere 2,000 to 3,000 students, and so typically we have worked in that smaller environment. We do work in 13 school districts. We have 87 clinic sites as far as school-based clinics. So when I started talking with Janae back in March of last year, all that I could think about is how in the world can we make this work? Because we're used to just the small environment, 4 to 5 schools in a district, and I will be honest with you. I was nervous about this area just because I'm not familiar with this area, and looking at 23 sites is a lot in how we can make that work. But because of such great support from the district and the community, it has went off without a hitch. I mean, it has been wonderful. Everything has just been very smooth. The school nurses are top notch.
Good.
They are top notch
Good.
school nurses. The administration, everyone has been great to work with us and to learn our policy and procedure and our process, and to be patient with us. And I even told the school nurses this, there's going to be some bumps in the road in the beginning, and that's okay. We'll work through those and ultimately get to the end goal, which is taking care of as many kids as we can possibly take care of.
Right. So when parents, and I think Janae's got some documentation there, so when parents get that care that child needs,
Sure.
I would think, as again, I love my pediatrician's office, but if I get a call from school that says one of our daughters is sick, and that nurse practitioner is right there and they can prescribe something or do something for the child, that I may not necessarily have to leave school to get them to do, or to make them better. I know I appreciate that. So, I mean, just talk about some of the things that you've been hearing from parents and from staff, and that's a kind of a forgotten piece. If I get sick, if I'm in a school building, hey, it's pretty nice to walk down and see.
It is very handy for everyone. The first probably incident that I had, this has been back before we even started with you guys, this was probably in September, and I walked into Starbucks here in E-Town, and I had on my name tag, and the cashier said, "Oh, that's the Healthy Kids Clinic. I've been reading about you guys. We can't wait for you all to come." And she made the comment. She said, I have to work certain hours, and I can't get my child to the pediatrician sometimes because I'm at work and there's no one to cover my shift. And I thought, you know what? That's why we're here. And so that started even before we even began services. I have had so far nothing but positive feedback. We've had a lot of parents even call into the office, just asking questions, thanking us for the services. I've been in the district a lot lately, working with the Go Live, and we've had parents come in for visits, and they're just so appreciative of the services. One of the services we have to offer that makes us a little bit different than some other organizations is our sliding fee scale program. And so we're able to see patients who don't have insurance. So that's a huge asset to the patients, whether they're students or staff that don't have insurance. And so we try to really work with those patients and help them. And so that's being utilized a lot. And so we appreciate that.
You talk about parents seeing or that contact with parents, but at the beginning of the year, you talked about that form, and even if anybody hasn't filled out that form, they really need to do that to make sure that their child can see those, get those services.
Absolutely, they do. So we send home consent forms at the beginning of the year. We have a Healthy Kids Clinic registration form, and that's the form that is used for consent for school nursing services, as well as consent for nurse practitioner services. So even if the parents just want school nursing services, that's perfectly fine, and we totally respect that. But they need to fill out that form just so they can have consent for the school nurses to triage them, any over-the-counter medications they want given, anything like that. So there's still time to fill out those forms. If parents initially just decided they only wanted school nursing services, and now they've decided they want their student to see the nurse practitioner, that's okay too. We can always, they can always change their form, and we can always make revisions to that for them if they choose to do that. So those forms are very important, especially for the school nurses, because they give the child's allergies and any daily medications that they take, any health history that the school nurse might need to know. So they're important for our nurse practitioners to see the students, but they're even more important for those school nursing services that we all know how valuable they are.
Janae, we talked briefly with Ibby about some of the feedback that we've gotten, and I think you maybe have gotten a couple of notes there. Just kind of summarize what folks are saying about these tremendous services.
It is wonderful to have positive feedback. We've had parents call with questions, just needing further understanding about the registration forms. Those are all located on the Hardin County Schools website. So if a parent has not had an opportunity to complete those, or if they get a note from the school nurse, we need you to fill out the registration form, they can find them all there. But in addition to some of the questions that we've received, we've just a couple of posts on social media. This sums it up best about Cumberland Family Medical. It says, "It was just amazing to see that Cumberland went above and beyond, and they care enough about my child to want to help her no matter what. I don't think we as parents give people that watch watch over, care, and teach our children enough credit for what they do. And that's what Cumberland Family Medical has strengthened Hardin County Schools to help us watch over and to care as we teach their children.
Right.
And there are children that we love in the community.
Ibby kind of hit it on the head too. You know, we're all three in probably a position where if we need to go, we can go. I mean, if there's an emergency, we can just go. But a lot of employees, a lot of our parents are not in those type positions.
Right.
So this service is huge. It's just huge. One other question I had: these nurses could probably be making a lot more money doing other things, but they're choosing to work with us. That is talk about something huge. That's huge.
That working with children is a passion and is very evident with the school nurses that are serving in Hardin County Schools. They're here for the children. They're here for their whole wellness. Cumberland has, as they've strengthened us as a district, Cumberland Healthy Kids Clinic has strengthened school nurses in their just knowing and understanding the importance of their service and how widespread it is. It's been great talking with you guys, and great to learn about the opportunities that are there for kids, and that's ultimately what we're in business for, is to help kids. So if you need more information, as Janae said, if you need more information about the services that Cumberland Family Medical offers or our partnership with them, or just to learn about our health services, that information is all on our website. So please just go there and you can find that information. Also those forms that Ibby was talking about, you can find those forms there as well. If you're maybe new to the area, new to the district, you haven't filled out those forms to give consent for Cumberland Family Medical to treat your child. And of course, you'll always still get a phone call before they make that treatment as well. So again, thanks to Ibby and Janae for hanging out with us, and it's been great learning about our health services. We'll see you next time on HCS Matters.